my noble friend Lady Alton for bringing this timely bill to your Lordship's House and for her eloquent and persuasive introductory remarks. My unremunerated interests linked to various charities which work on these issues are declared in the register. I served as a member of the All-Party Parliamentary Pro-Life Group's inquiry into freedom of conscience in abortion provision, which has been referred to during the course of this debate, an inquiry that was admirably chaired by the Member of Parliament for Congleton, Fiona Bruce MP. On Wednesday of this week, I met Mary Dugan, one of the two midwives referred to by my noble friend and by the noble and learned Lord and others. The call of a midwife is an incredibly high calling. It's a call to bring new life into the world and to tell such women that they must facilitate the taking of the lives of babies in the womb or lose their jobs is not the hallmark of a liberal or a tolerant society. In the 18th century, the renowned German philosopher Immanuel Kant understood conscience as an internal court in man, an internal court in man. This is a core premise, that conscience acts as an external constraint on human behaviour. Whether it's inspired by religious or secular belief is largely irrelevant. Conscience isn't founded on whim or personal preference, but, my lords, rather it provides meaningful conviction which allows people to structure their own ethical identity and to exercise their judgment. It was in accordance with Kant's dictum that the framers of the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, written as the world emerged from the horrors of the Second World War, that they understood conscience. Conscience features prominently in the document, with the very first article recognising, and I quote, that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience. Both the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the European Convention on Human Rights explicitly guarantee the right to freedom of conscience for all, and it's been recognised in every major human rights treaty since then. But, my lords, it was also recognised in another place and here during the debates in 1967 that formed the Abortion Act. It was David Steele, now Lord Steele, who told the House of Commons, and I quote from column 750, July 1967, "The bill imposes no obligation on anyone to participate in an operation." And he went on to say this: "The clause also gives nurses and hospital employees a clear right to opt out." My lords, the case of Mary Dugan shows how that assurance, which was given in sincerity and in the genuine belief that it would be implemented, has at least been diluted and watered down. While conscientious protection in Section 4 was specifically enshrined in the Act, in practice, the report that we undertook over the last 2 years found that medical professionals are far too dependent on the individual attitudes and discretion of their personal line managers or colleagues. During the inquiry, evidence from the British Medical Association confirmed that some doctors had complained of being harassed and discriminated against specifically because of their conscientious objection to abortion. The inquiry also heard evidence on how career progression, a point that the noble Lord McColl of Dulwich, with so much experience in this field, made during his speech earlier today, of how career progression opportunities, particularly in gynecology and obstetrics, had been limited for those who wanted to exercise their conscience. And I was particularly struck by this piece of evidence from one of the country's leading paediatricians, Professor John Wyatt. He told us, over the last century, there have been many startling and egregious cases in which the core moral commitments of medicine have been corrupted and violated because of state coercion being exercised on physicians. The vast majority of evidence that was received accorded with what John Wyatt said to us and recognised the importance of conscience as a key part of what it means to live in a free and fulfilled society, in a diverse and democratic society. My noble friend, Lord Robedo, referred to Dr. Mary Neal, who's a senior lecturer in law at the University of Strathclyde, I met with her earlier this week too, but in her submission, her written evidence, she said this: we should not expect someone who believes abortion to be seriously morally wrong to be willing to participate in it in any capacity, and conscience provisions should be drafted and interpreted so as to protect healthcare practitioners against any such expectations. My Lords, at its core, this bill is about the minority's right to dissent from mainstream opinion and to resist compelled action. It prevents abuse of a dominant position and is deeply concerned with the right of individual liberty. Most of the arguments that have been advanced during today's debate simply do not stand up to scrutiny, the arguments against the bill. The Abortion Act already limits scope of conscientious objection, and if it was working in such a pernicious way as some have described in preventing people participating in abortions, it really would not enable one abortion to take place every 3 minutes in this country, 20 every hour, over 8 million since the passage of that legislation. So, my Lords, I don't believe that that argument stacks up. The state, though, has a duty to safeguard the conscience of individual professionals, as well as providing an effective healthcare service. The denial of conscience is an attribute of an illiberal society. It is the hallmark of an illiberal society because it's an act of coercion. A doctor, a nurse, or a midwife is not a functionary or an automaton. As the father of a young doctor, I'm acutely conscious of the high calling of the healer. 2,500 years ago, Hippocrates, the father of medicine, enunciated a revolutionary devotion to the preservation of human life. And here I agree with the noble Baroness Lady Richardson. We are not compelled to go to heroic lengths to keep someone alive who would otherwise die. That is not at the core of palliative medicine, and her heartbreaking story is an example of bad medical practice. But nor should we tell doctors that they have to give lethal injections to take life. My Lords, my noble friend's bill is consistent with the tradition of Hippocrates, who said, in a fundamental move away from more primitive medical traditions, there would be prohibitions on abortion and euthanasia. He refused to accommodate those who believed that care and kill could be used as synonyms, and nor does my noble friend, and that's why I hope that her bill will receive a second reading in your Lordship's House today.